There is a small video about Hartnell governor. You need not hear the audio of this, but you just see what is Hartnell governor. How does it look? A little bit different from all the governors we have seen till now. Okay, so that we are going to see, and then some introductory derivations we will see. So this video is generally taken from the YouTube. So if you have a look at this Hartnell governor, uh, okay, so the Hartnell governor has a body like this with a spring on the central sleeve. This it is a spring-loaded governor. Spring is stopping the movement of your sleeve, and you have two L-shaped bell crank levers. Okay, so L-shaped bell crank levers will are pivoted at this point. Okay, the L is pivoted at this point. The L will the balls will move out and in, and this will in turn move the sleeve up and down. Okay, that movement is being used. Now just have a look at it. Okay, so when your governor speed goes when the load on the governor increases, what happens? When the load on the governor increases, it slows down and the spring pushes the sleeve downwards. Similarly, when the speed increases, your ball centrifugal force lifts the sleeve upwards. Corresponding changes in the input to the input steam flow or working fluid flow is adjustment is given. So one thing you have to remember, it is a spring-loaded governor. Clear? Do you understand how does the Hartnell governor work? This is a normal, just a small animation to show how does Hartnell governor. Just straight away, if you look at the diagram, you will not understand. So that's why I have shown you a small animation for the Hartnell governor. Now we will look at the Hartnell governor is a spring-loaded governor as shown in figure. This is a normal diagram of a Hartnell governor. So what are all the things present there? Just have a look. So especially this bell crank lever is very important in a Hartnell governor. This is called as a bell crank lever. So this L shape, and this L shape swings about this point O. That is very important. Okay, similarly this side also. When the centrifugal force increases, your L shape will tend to become like this and lift the sleeve upward. Do you understand? So that's how a Hartnell governor works. It is supposed to be one of the most efficient governor in all the four. In whatever you have studied, Watt governor, Porter, Crowell, Hartnell. Hartnell is more efficient than all the other three. Okay, so it consists of a bell crank lever pivoted through the points O to the frame. The frame is attached to the governor spindle, therefore rotates with it. Each lever carries a ball at the end of the vertical arm in the roller. So the lower portion where your lever, bell crank lever is touching the sleeve, you are having a roller. This roller will adjust for the friction. Okay, whenever you want to push the sleeve upwards, the sleeve is actually rotating. It is not at rest. Therefore, you cannot straight away touch the bell crank lever to a rotating sleeve. Therefore, you have a roller in between which allows the relative motion but still conveys the input of the bell crank lever, whether to lift the sleeve or move the sleeve downwards. Okay. A helical spring in compression provides equal downward force on the two rollers. So that is your most important component of your. This is the loaded spring, helical spring, which is going to provide some calibration on how much force is required to move the sleeve upwards or downwards. Okay, this and the stiffness of the spring can be adjusted by tightening this nut. Okay, if you tighten the nut, the springs become stiffer. If you make it loose, spring will get a little bit less stiff. Stiffness it is a variable stiffness spring. Okay, spring force may be adjusted by screwing the nut up or down. That's what is told. So let M equal to mass of the balls in kilogram, capital M equal to mass of the sleeve. Okay, these are the two extreme positions of the Hartnell governor. One of the bell crank lever L arm is shown. The remaining thing is only the free body diagram will have one bell crank lever arm with its ball. That's all. Okay. So R1 equal to minimum radius of rotation in meters. Please carefully see when your Hartnell governor is going very slow. So your ball will be on the most innermost position. So what is this R1? So look here, this is your ball center line to the governor axis. It is not even equal to this length. Okay, bell crank lever. This is your bell crank lever. The ball is here. When you are going very slow, it comes in. So radius of rotation, governor axis is here. Okay. This radius of rotation becomes even smaller than the length of your bell crank lever. It is very small. For extreme case, high speed case, your radius of rotation becomes larger than the length of this L, horizontal portion of the L. So that is important. So R1 equal to minimum radius, ball center. So minimum innermost ball position, ball center to governor axis. So one thing you have to remember is it is lesser than this Y. Y is the horizontal length of the bell crank lever. X is the vertical length of the bell crank lever. So X and Y you have to keep this in mind very carefully when you are looking at a Hartnell governor. Okay. So R2 equal to maximum radius of rotation. Same thing this side. That's what I told you earlier. So when the ball goes to the outermost extreme position, ball center to the governor axis. Distance is R2. So omega 1 angular speed of the governor in minimum speed. Omega 2 is the maximum speed corresponding to R1 R2. That speed. Okay. S1 equal to spring force exerted during this N1 speed. When your governor is going around at this radius at a speed of omega 1, how much downward force is exerted by the spring, central spring on the sleeve is called S1. Similarly, S2 is the omega 2 position force. Okay, so FC1, FC2, the ball, centrifugal forces. FC1 and FC2 are the two centrifugal forces at omega 1, omega 2. Okay. So S is equal to stiffness of the spring. This central spindle spring you are having, that the stiffness is small s. So X is equal to the X and Y I have already told you. Bell crank lever length, vertical length is X, horizontal length is Y. R is equal to radius of the fulcrum of the governor axis. This is O point. Okay. This R does not change, it is always same. This is R. So R is the distance of the fulcrum O from the governor axis, or the radius of rotation when the governor is in the mid position. When your X becomes vertical, R becomes equal to Y. So that is called as R. Okay. So it's a theoretically vertical position. So for the minimum position I am taking, consider the forces acting on one bell crank lever. Minimum and maximum position are shown below. First I have shown the minimum position. Okay. So the radius of rotation changes from R1 at the minimum position to R2 at the maximum position. Always radius of rotation you have to look from the ball center to governor axis. This is your radius of rotation. Okay, any governor. For minimum position, when the radius of rotation changes from R to R1, so what is R? R is this. When you are in the theoretically horizontal position, your radius of rotation is called R. R is the distance between fulcrum point O and the radius governor axis. Okay, so as the speed reduces, your radius of rotation reduces from R to R1. This much it reduces. Okay, reduces from R to R1 as shown in figure A below. The compression of the spring or lift of the sleeve H1. Where is H1? So this is H1. This much the sleeve goes down. Okay, otherwise your in reverse your fuel supply will be reduced if your sleeve goes down. So H1 is given by H1 by Y. I am writing a relationship. H1 divided by Y. Let's take this triangle. So this triangle I am writing H1 by hypotenuse of triangle Y. So this can be also taken. This is a similar triangle for that. This triangle is a similar triangle because they have two angles equal and this side is parallel sides. Okay. So H1 by Y equal to A1 by X. What is A1? See here. The difference in radius from R to R1. R minus R1 is A1. A1 by X. Hypotenuse. So here I am taking H1 by Y. And the similar triangle I am taking A1 by hypotenuse X. Do you understand how I am writing this? Similar triangles. A1 by x, that is equal to A1 is nothing but capital, initial radius R minus R1 is A1. Okay. So let's keep that as equation 1. Similarly, for the maximum position you write, I can write h2 by y equal to a2 by x equal to r2 minus r by x, because here r2 is greater than r2 minus, when if your theoretically horizontal position of your bell crank lever, the radius is r, so r2 minus r becomes a2, so that is your a2 by x, the similar triangle comparison, r2 minus r by x, clear, for the maximum position. So adding equations 1 and 2, h1 by h2, h1 plus h2 by y equal to, so here what was the previous expression, r minus r1 divided by x plus r2 minus r by x, this r and r will get cancelled, so r2 minus r1 by x, the right side becomes clear. So put h is equal to h1 plus h2 in the above relationship, so h by y equal to r2 minus r1 by x, so I can cross multiply r2 minus r1 into y by x is equal to h. So for minimum position taking moment about O, so minimum position I am taking moment about O. So from here, so where is this mg plus s1 by 2 into y1? What is y1? This is y1. So this, so capital Mg plus spring stiffness S1 divided by 2. Half of that is acting here. Not just sleeve mass, along with that spring stiffness is acting. Okay. So therefore Mg plus S1 by 2 into the perpendicular distance from O. This is Y1. Okay. Plus ball mass at a distance of A1 from the point O. Perpendicular distance. Okay. So Mg into A1 equal to, so these two are going around in clockwise direction. Clear? If you rotate this force about O, it will go in clockwise, this will go in clockwise, but the centrifugal force will go in anti-clockwise. Therefore, it will come on the other side of the equation, other different symbol. Fc into x1, this length. Okay, Fc into x1. Here, now rearrange that and do mathematical manipulation. All that you will get one equation like this. Keep it as it is. Mg plus S1 equal to 2 by y1 into epsilon x1 minus mg into. So now I am taking the maximum position. Same thing by taking moment, I am rearranging and I am writing equation 5. Mg plus S2 equal to 2 by y2 into Fc2 into x2 minus mg into a2. Subtracting equation 4 from equation 5. So this is equation 4, equation 5. So subtract 4 from 5. Okay. So what will happen? You rearrange everything. You can cancel this mg and mg. S2 minus S1 you will get an equation. S2 minus S1 equal to 2 by y2 Fc2. This whole thing will be as it is. Keep it as it is. Only this mg and mg will get eliminated. This entire thing minus this entire thing. As it is I am writing. Same thing is written here. Okay. So we know that S2 minus S1 equal to change in height into stiffness of the spring is the difference in load due to the spindle spring. Okay. So and H is equal to R2 minus R1 into y by x. So S is equal to S2 minus S1 by H. So this I am rearranging. Spring stiffness equal to, just send this H to the denominator. So for instead of H you substitute this here. So H is equal to R2 minus R in the above expression. Your expression changes. Spring stiffness expression you are obtaining. Neglecting the obliquity effect. What is obliquity? The change in the length. Let's go back to this diagram. You will understand. Let's look in this diagram. What is the value of x2? X2 is the vertical height. So if initially my bell crank lever is like this, now it is like this, higher speed position. What is this vertical height? What is this vertical height? So this is x, I know. This is x, this is y. Now this is x2. Just the vertical height alone you have to take. Now the difference between this x and x2 and x1 is neglected. Obliquity neglected means change in vertical distance of the ball from the fulcrum point due to the centrifugal force is neglected. Obliquity is neglected. Okay. That's what I am telling. Always in ordinal governor we neglect obliquity unless it is specified in the question directly. Okay. So x1 equal to x2 equal to x. So in this previous slide expressions, what I am going to do is I am going to write x2 as x, x1 as x. Okay, and this is neglected. The ball mass effect is neglected. Clear. So now I am rearranging this equation. And moment due to the weight of the ball, so is neglected. So for minimum position I have the x1 becomes x and the mg component vanishes. So this is your equation you are getting. So y1 becomes y, x1 becomes x, that minus mg component vanishes. It's a simplification. Okay. So mg plus s1 equal to 2 into fc1 into x by y. That is equation 6. Keep it as it is. Similarly for maximum position, I will get mg plus s2 equal to fc2 into x by y. So subtracting that from these two equations, 6 from 7, what will happen? S2 minus S1 equal to 2 FC2 minus FC1 into XY. Do you get it? S2 minus S1. Difference in force exerted by the spring equal to 2 times the centrifugal force in the two cases into X by Y. X by Y is the ratio of the bell crank lever arms. Okay, bell crank lever, this is X, this is Y. So depending on this ratio, your centrifugal force varies twice. So that is S1, S is the load exerted, S2 is the load exerted in the second speed by the spindle spring. First case spindle spring S1. Okay. Same thing you substitute again here, you get 2 into FC2 minus FC1, R2 minus R1, X by Y the whole square. This is your stiffness formula. Okay. Have a note of this formula. Spring stiffness equal to 2 times of Fc2 minus Fc1 divided by R2 minus R1 into X by Y the whole square. This is your final stiffness of the spindle spring formula. Okay. So there are some special notes to you. Unless otherwise specified, obliquity is always neglected. Okay. So when friction comes into the formula, your capital M sleeve mass plus or minus F is taken, and how to put plus and minus that you know already as usual. Okay. The centrifugal force in any intermediate position can be calculated by the following way. So these three equations I am taking and then I am rearranging them and I can write like this. Okay, so Fc equal to Fc2 minus Fc1 into R2 minus R by. So this we will see when we are doing the problem. So that completes your Hartnell governor introduction. You are taken from your Kurmi textbook 18.8 section.